Hello everybody! So I was planning on doing a how to toast bread over the fire sort of video, but it has recently been snowing. It's snowing again, and that means that I can do a how to start a fire when there's snow on everything sort of video, and also toast some bread over the fire, because like, why not sort of thing. So what I'm taking with me here is I've got a box of matches, a piece of bread, and a pocket knife. And we're going to go out into the woods and make a little fire and see how this goes. So here we are. This is where we're going to go ahead and have a fire, just right down here. Now, normally it would be kind of a concern about just having a fire out in the middle of the woods, but because there's snow on the ground, it means that we don't have to be quite as concerned about it. So long as we have just like a piece of wood that we're doing everything on, we should be fine. Because even if we melt all the snow, it'll be wet enough that it shouldn't catch the ground on fire. And catching the ground on fire is a legitimate concern in the woods. So the most important part of any fire is preparation. So we have here just a block of wood, kind of like what I was talking about. That was just out here floating around. And we're going to go and get ahead and collect some of the ingredients that we're going to need for this fire. One thing that I realized is that in my box of matches here, I've only got one match. So we're going to have to make doubly sure that this works the first time. So our hardest challenge, since it snowed recently, is going to be finding stuff that's dry enough to burn. And there's some tricks to it, but just looking around, it looks like a lot of the tricks that I would normally use aren't necessarily going to work this time. So I might have to come up with some other tricks. Here we have a bit of rotten birch. As you can see, I kind of just like push that over. Now, we don't want the rotten wood, because wood that is rotten is pretty bad for us. But if we bring it back over here, birch has this bark on it that is actually quite nice for starting fires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it right down here, and we're going to see if we can get that bark off of there. So this right here is exactly what we want, because this is not only relatively dry, but also very, very flammable. So this will be excellent for starting our fire. Also, the way that I took that off was I just cut a little slit and then just peeled from the edge. It's pretty straightforward. Alright, so we have a fairly sizable amount of this birch bark, so we're going to go ahead and stick this over here, right on top of this piece of wood. Oh, you can almost see that. There we go. And then we're going to go get some more pieces of stuff to burn. So we do have something to get our fire started with, but we're going to need some sort of actual, like, burnable stuff besides just birch bark, because I don't think the birch bark is going to burn long enough. Now, we do have a bunch of wood right here, or like branches and stuff, but they're all covered in snow, and we don't really want that. So we're going to have to find a spot where we can find some branches that aren't covered in snow, or even if they are covered in snow, that we can, you know, have some reasonable assurance that they're going to burn well. So we're just gonna, you know, wander around for a little bit. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to be checking like underneath these spruce trees, because I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot less snow under here. And I was kind of hoping like these twigs, because these you can break off without hurting the tree. I was hoping we'd have some that weren't all covered in snow, like this one right here is. But as you can see, this is covered in snow. And this is what I was talking about. A lot of my tricks are actually looking like, because of how this snow fell, I'm not sure that I can use them. So I wanted to point out that if you're out in the woods and you don't happen to find a nice rotten birch tree, oftentimes birch tree will have bark that's just peeling off the edge like this, and it doesn't harm the tree at all to go ahead and pull that off. In fact, the reason why it's peeling like that is a kind of defense against forest fire, because what happens is that burns off really quick, and the underlayer of bark is relatively fireproof, and so it burns off, and then the fire has nothing else to burn. So taking a little bit of this off isn't going to hurt the tree as far as growing, and there will still be enough left for it to, because it'll even, forest fires will burn like all of this, not just the peeling bits. So you can take the peeling bits without harming the tree. So I did find right down here, I've got a couple of branches that have some snow on it and some that have a lot less snow. Some of these twig bits that should be okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick these up. You just want to snap them with a little bit left. These are branches that for the most part have ceased to be of any use to the tree. That's why they're kind of all dead and super easy to break off. If they were still alive, you wouldn't be able to just snap. We're gonna go ahead and grab this one because it's mostly snow free, and these drop my phone. Now is the point in time where I really hope that my phone is somewhat water resistant, because I just dropped it right in the snow. But we're going to go ahead and grab these sticks here. Even though they've got some snow on them, they should be okay. So the trick to getting a good fire going is, of course, all in the preparation. So we have here our birch bark, which should work quite well as just like a little tinder. We're going to go ahead and break this big long stick that we've got here into much shorter bits. This bit here feels kind of rotten, so we're just going to put it on the edge as like a support bit and not worry about actually burning it. This bit here looks a little rotteny, so we're going to stick that on the other side. We have here the little twigs that I got, and I'm actually going to go ahead and take a couple pieces of this birch bark out. And the reason why I'm taking these out is I'm going to use these to actually start the fire. So then we're just going to go ahead and set these across that birch bark and the twigs. Got a couple other sticks and such. And I went ahead and set them in the snow, but they seem relatively dry on the inside, so they should be okay. We're going to go ahead and stick those over the top as well. Just something kind of like that. What you want is you want your tinder to be down at the bottom with some slightly bigger stuff and then some slightly bigger stuff. And then we've got all of this on the side, but as you can tell just from looking at this, this is probably pretty wet. So we're gonna hope that we can get a good enough fire going here to kind of like get those to burn even with them being somewhat damp. So now we're going to have here the moment of truth, where we see whether or not we can actually start this fire with just one match. So the reason why I have this birch bark out, actually I need to hold on to that box. The reason why I have the birch bark out is because that way I can kind of keep it all sort of contained, and just start a little kind of tiny fire right here in the birch bark, where it's like safe from the wind. So I'm just gonna like cup it all together like this. I'm gonna go ahead and strike and light it off here, then transfer it into our fire. So here goes. So you see how that birch bark just lights right up. I'm gonna bring it right down here. Oh, that's kind of warm. But as you can see, it's going pretty well. We do have a lot of smoke coming off of it, and that is because it is more wet than it normally would be. But as you can see, it's working just fine. And so this is why I was looking for the birch bark and then also for some dry sticks. So in just a moment here, we should see some of the sticks start to catch on fire. And I'm actually going to put a little bit of air into this. Just blowing on it slightly. Come on. Because all the birch bark in the world doesn't do us any good if it doesn't catch the sticks on fire. Ah, but right here, this stick is on fire, so we're good. So now it's time to toast. So we have here a piece of bread. Now, normally I would say you should get like some sort of apparatus to toast it by, but we're just gonna, you know, burn our fingers by holding this. Woo! I kind of dropped that because I burnt my fingers a bit. So we're just gonna set this right over here, let the flames lick away at it. You know, it's gonna be some good toast. And there we have straight on the fire toast. It tastes a little sooty, but it's actually quite good. Like, it looks really bad, but it kind of tastes a bit like a hot dog, actually, if I'm honest. And there you have it. Probably the least effective piece of toast I've ever made in my entire life. But it tastes pretty good. It really does. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. You know what this needs? It needs some butter. Oh well.